I would I would lie and say I was busy all day, so I didn't get to record on time, but that's a fat fucking lie. So I'm not even gonna like sugarcoat it. Um, Today it is July 27, 2025 at 12:12 a.m. What a surprise. I was supposed to record this earlier, quote unquote, today, um, before it turned to midnight. It's not too happy with myself, I will not lie. I found myself stuck in a fucking situation again, bromance wise. And now I'm like catching on a lot quicker than I normally would. And I feel like this week I've physically been able to recognize the pattern that I've been facing and the situations that I've been catching myself in. And it's like I recognize that, and it's still very difficult to kind of overcome those, overcome those issues. And I'm just now realizing, like, yeah, okay, maybe like a lot of the changes that are happening necessarily are occurring, I don't want to say outside of the artist way, because I am focusing on the artist way. I complete the tasks, I do the readings, I do the artist dates, and I do the morning pages. And it's like I feel like now that I'm trying to really take a lot more care of myself and how I treat my my artistic side. It's like I'm kind of recognizing how in other ways I'm not necessarily doing the best that I can to protect my artist self, to my inner artist, right? And it's creating a lot of blockages, and it's restraining me in some sort of way, and it's physically manifesting itself as frustration. And I'm second guessing a lot of like what it is that I'm like doing when it comes to my relationships. Like I feel like I I'm just so mad at myself, I guess. Like not necessarily I'm not mad at myself for, making mistakes. It's the fact that like I know that I need to do something and I can't, or like I can, but it's so difficult for me to actually do anything. And so I'm just like repeating the cycle over and over again, and it's like I shouldn't have to be dealing with this at all. And but I still am, right? So I feel as though like I know I'm starting like I feel like we were like already discussing like the kind of habits that that I have that are like bringing me down, and it mostly revolves around other people. A lot of the blockages and the things that cause me the most stress comes from other people, because I mean I'm heavily impacted and I care so much about what other people think, how they perceive me, how I want to display myself to others, and it becomes so stressful to the point where like I burn out, and it's like hard for me to really do anything, to create anything when that desire is already still there. Outside of the perfectionist tendencies that I have, it's a lot of that tension comes from people. Yeah, like, especially in romance is what I'm like realizing, because like I tend to overgive a lot to a lot of connections, but I feel like in love, I that's when I tend to lose myself the most, because I just want, normally I would want to spend most of my life obviously with that person, and I would want to be around them 24/7, or at least that's how I used to be. And I find myself in this like new connection that happens so unexpectedly, and like I have no spite towards them, but they're very clingy. I've expressed the need for space, because it's become something that I've learned to value, being alone with myself. It's like I need to recharge somehow. And they're not, I feel like they're mirroring a part of who I used to be. And I'm recognizing how frustrating that could be when, I'm the one being tied down to a specific connection that clearly isn't giving me enough room to grow and to feel like safe with myself. Like if I can't feel if I can't hang around with myself and just be alone for a moment without feeling guilty for the other person, that clearly, it shouldn't be, it's not a desired connection that I would like to have, right? I want independence from both parties. Like, yeah, there are times where I feel like I want to be with someone and I want to have that connection. But I've grown out of the habit of feeling as though I need a second half to complete the whole, right? I know I could very much handle being alone. I've done it for like a year compared to how my whole childhood, I had only known relationships. That's all I had been used to. And now that I find myself in a genuine connection, even though I feel like it wasn't even communicated properly, I found myself stuck in this hole where I didn't get the chance to speak up for myself in a situation around other people because there were other people around, and I found myself in a connection when I thought that we were taking it slow. That was the impression that he had given me on a one-on-one basis when we were alone. I discussed the what would we consider this connection to be, and he very clearly stated that we should just ease our way into the connection to see how it goes. So I was expecting a slow, steady pace, which was what I needed, because in retrospect I still don't necessarily know if I didn't know if that connection was really something that I wanted, because I was still questioning how it would go and if it would work long term, because that's what I strive for. I strive for a long-term connection. I don't want anything superficial with anybody, and I don't like to waste time, especially if someone clearly isn't as serious as I am about it, right? So I just don't, that was my impression. I thought we were taking it slow, and then a few days later, a person comes up to us and just so are you guys dating? And I turned to him because I was expecting him to be oh yeah, no, we've talked about it. And no, he just immediately said, yeah, I guess we are. Technically speaking, we are. And there was no room for me to there was obviously room for me to say something at that point beforehand, but I was, I didn't feel like I needed to take the role in that situation. And because of that, I ended up stuck in a situation where I felt like I was obligated to just roll with it. And now I found myself stuck in this committed relationship with someone that I didn't even feel like I was prepared for. So now I'm super cautious with how I word things, how I want to approach the situation. And a part of me is maybe it could work out. Maybe it could, but that I wasn't given a choice. I had interest in that person, yes, but after that whole situation, I just felt super uncomfortable. I felt, I guess, I was just very cautious, very anxious about the whole situation because it wasn't planned. I wasn't prepared for it emotionally and mentally. And now, when I want space, I'm not being given it because they want to be around me 24/7. And it's not if you have a connection that's like that, that's perfectly fine. If you feel comfortable and safe and both parties are clearly happy in that sort of connection, good for you. But I've already grown past that stage, and I recognize that wasn't really the kind of love that I want. That's not the kind of relationship that I want. And I value freedom. I value peace. I value fairness and equality, but I want that. I want independence between both parts. I don't want to have to rely on the other person to be complete, I want to be complete on my own, and then have someone who's also complete on them on their own, so that we can grow together, but in separate manners, I get I feel like I'm wording that really oddly, but it's I'm just oh my god, it's awful. It's not awful because I do appreciate the person, I do care for them, I do love them, but the things that they're doing, the way that they're acting, and the way that they're treating me, it's getting to the point where I feel like my mind is pushing them away. I've already communicated that I wanted privacy. I wanted alone time. I wanted just a moment to be with myself. And they don't necessarily respect that as much as I would like for them to. And I wanted, like, at some point, I know I'm going to one day address the, hey, I feel like you don't respect my boundaries, because, like, there's, like, a whole other, like, set of instances that I will not discuss on here that, like, kind of irk me, and they kind of tick me off, and it's setting, like, red alarms, right? And I feel like they're very small cases, but there's still that hint of, like, you know, maybe you're being over dramatic. Maybe this is a form of self-sabotage, and this is, like, actually a good fucking connection. But I don't really think that's what it is right now. Right? I'm pretty sure his intentions were not to completely fuck me over in that public situation, but it felt very off-putting. And I didn't really appreciate that he did that. And he made that bold assumption that, like, hey, I wanted I want commitment right now, just because I like you. Right? And I'm not talking to anyone else, right? I'm not talking to anybody else, so it's not a matter of me, like, you know, oh, I don't want to be faithful to someone because, like, I have other options. No, you know, when I started this journey, I had been single for at least a year. I've already stated this, but, like, I never thought that going through this journey of the artist way would also, like, open up, like, wounds that I had, like, gone through from, like, my childhood in regards to relationships, because that's always been a major point in my, like, a major topic that has just surrounded my life since I was, like, very young. At a very young age, the topic of love has always been prominent in my life, and it gets so draining, because I used to find that being in a relationship was something that I needed to strive for, so that I cannot repeat the same patterns as my parents did and end up in the situation that they're in, where, you know, they're still, like, karmically tied together because of, you know, the product of what their relationship was, which was me. And their relationship wasn't necessarily the healthiest. It was very abusive, very karmic, very negative overall, right? It was just very toxic. And since I had to surround myself with that situation my whole life, and I felt the desire and the need to fix it, and seeing, like, how that relationship negatively impacted them in their futures and how it held them back in several ways outside of just love, it made me terrified. It made me feel like I needed to, like, stray as far away from that as possible. So from a young age, I was so desperate to find the one, my true love, my significant other, my soulmate. And I found myself kind of struggling with those issues that, you know, my parents dealt with at that young age. Like, I started dating since, I would say, like, 5th grade. You know, I was still a kid. I didn't get the chance to really focus on, like, friendships and those kinds of connections. Like, yeah, I had friends, but, like, I never really tried my best to fully develop them. And at some point in my freshman year, like, after, like, during the whole, like, COVID situation, everything after that, I lost everyone because I was so invested in a romantic connection that was toxic and abusive. And it left me with no friends. It left me with 0 social skills. Not a lot of life experience that I feel like I, like, should have gone through when I was in high school. Like, I just never got that opportunity because I was just so, I was fucking myself over relationship wise. And, you know, that 1 year that I had spent single, that was the longest I had been single since that point, like, since I started dating. And I'm 20, you know? I feel like finding love or the perfect person should be the least of my concerns, right? And that's what I was trying to do. But the moment I, like, started picking up, like, this fucking book, it's like, holy shit, you know, let's let's relive almost like every single like negative situation you've ever faced in your entire life so that you can overcome it in like the span of 12 fucking chapters. And it's kind of funny, right? Because like I with especially with like the morning pages, like I physically see how different I have been responding to these situations, how my rose colored glasses have like faded, and like I get to also witness how different I'm responding to these situations compared to how I used to respond when I was a kid, when I was a child, a young teenager, right? And it's honestly really cool, really impressive to see how far I've come. Not only from just like the span of like what these like few weeks have been, but my entire life, my whole childhood, how I'm developing slowly but surely. And I feel I'm proud of myself for that, but it's also like I still have like so like much like I have so much like left that I need to like actually heal from, because I'm not perfect. No one really is perfect, and I guess when I started this journey, I kind of expected the artist way to be more so about like, more about like improving my artwork creatively, learning to write more eloquently, more like just properly, right? I was expecting to like increase in skill. And I feel like, if you're taking a spiritual journey, maybe that isn't necessarily the case, but I just never expected it. I never expected it to cause change in this sort of manner, right? And it's funny because the biggest I guess hardship that I've ever had to face was always with like connections, romantic and platonic, family connections, everything like that. That's been like the reoccurring theme. It's always been my close one-on-one connections that have like kind of always like fucked me over and negatively impacted me, right? Yeah, I had issues. Like, it's funny too because like since the very like around the early stages, the first few chapters that we had gone through, I struggled with a lot of my friendships when I thought I had like already gotten over that. I remember the first few like a few weeks prior to beginning the artist way, I had cut off so many people like before my semester was over, because I thought that like I knew that at some point like I would have to like I would be struggling with like issues with my friends because they didn't clearly respect me as much as like as I would like for them to. So I just cut them off, and it's insane because I thought that after that was going to be it, and I was like, okay, we're going to focus so hard on just like physically like improving my performance in how I create. And I was very close-minded. Like I had very like it was extremely like it was giving tunnel vision. I had so much fucking I just never realized how creativity can be expressed through like multiple ways that it's like outside of like the basic writing, drawing, painting. I never really stopped to think about like, the like creativity that like consumes like our whole life, I guess. The different it takes up different aspects of our life outside of like the obvious, any little thing as to like redecorating your room, putting new furniture, organizing like just you could find creativity in everything. It's literally all around us, and I'm just now realizing I've known that already, but I guess like saying it out loud, it's just like, oh wow, But yeah, a lot. I feel like this week was just very like my brain just snapped. And I recognized this whole repeating pattern that I've like just constantly gone through my whole life. And now that I like am fully picking up on it, my mind is practically yelling at me to like break it. You recognize what it is. You see it right in front of you. You just need to take that leap of faith and just do what you need to do, because deep down you know you want it. You know you want to do it. It, like, the worst that could happen is just like momentary pain, and then you're free for the rest of like your life, or at least until the cycle repeats itself or a new cycle emerges, right? Because life can never always, like, it can't always be smooth sailing. And that's obvious. Life is constantly changing. And so should you. So the more that you resist that change, the more you're going to struggle. And the more difficult life is going to become, because you're going against the, like, grain. If life is changing, you change with it. And it's like, you have to do that, because at some point you're going to get stuck if you just remain in the same cycle. If you keep doing the same things and expecting for something to work when it didn't work the first time, you're not going to go anywhere. You're just going to be stuck in the same place. And I just need to take that leap of faith. That's all it is. And this, like, it has, I feel like a part of me feels like this is stupid, right? That this is, like, I'm, like, a part of me admittedly is very frustrated that I have to go through this relationship bullshit to fully, like, freely express myself. Because, like, I mean, like, when it comes to, when I'm thinking about it in a very, like, broad spectrum, it's like, okay, you're having relationship issues, but you still have the time and the drive to create something. But then when I read The Artist's Way, it's like, oh yeah, no, these issues can all impact you and cause strain in your creative process, and which will then, like, hinder you from being able to accomplish anything that you would want to accomplish. And that pisses me off. It pisses me off so much, because, like, it just, like, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. I want to be able to do all these things, and I've been wanting to do all these things. But this whole journey has just been about me struggling with my, like, connections, with the people that I surround myself with. And it's like, oh, but I thought you got rid of all those people, like, before you even started. Why am I back here? Why am I back in this situation that I hadn't had to deal with for ages, like, already? And I'm like, what's the point? Why are we still here? Why am I back in the same situation? Only this time I'm different. This time I'm approaching the situation in a more, like, different, less toxic manner than as, like, compared to how I used to when I was younger. Not that I was, like, toxic, but I was just very immature, clearly unhealed, right? I was, you know, my perception was very jaded. I didn't really know what I wanted. I just wanted connection. I just wanted to have someone there, because I couldn't stand being alone with my own thoughts. Because I didn't trust myself well enough to fully believe that I am capable of being independent and alone, not, you know, without having to rely on anyone. I felt like I needed someone there constantly. And now that I realize that I don't need anyone there, like, constantly, I could just, you know, I'm more than, like, satisfied and content with being alone, or, like, at least not physically, you know, like, I would like to have connections. And that's, like, when I refer to being alone, I mean, like, I don't need a partner to make me complete. That's all I'm, like, trying to say. And it's like, I realize that. And now that I have that sort of mindset of wanting and desiring independence so strongly, I find myself in, like, the same situations I used to be in, but, like, with that different mindset. And now it's somebody else responding the way I used to respond, or acting the way that I used to react, or mirroring negative traits of people that used to hurt me. And it's, I feel like that, like, frustration is, like, causing me to respond more passionately. I don't want to say passionately, but yeah, it's like, I mean, I was in a situationship about like a month ago, just about, and I I had set as firm boundaries as I ever had in a very like ever. And they didn't necessarily respect that, but me setting that boundary in the first place was already enough, like, of a change that, like, left me shocked. And for me to be firm on those boundaries and, like, express it to them, that was something I had never done. And I remember being so proud of myself for, like, being able to just do something that seems, like, so natural. That should have already, like, been something I should have been doing, it was something that I should have already been doing for a very long time, but I was never taught or raised to really set those boundaries because I wasn't allowed to feel things. I wasn't allowed to express myself without the fear of being reprimanded for it, for being punished, for feeling, for being human, for having emotions, right? So I always had to ensure the safety and comfortability of others at the expense of my own. And just, it feels nice. But at the same time, obviously, it's very difficult to heal through these wounds. To heal from my past in, at, like, a quick amount of time. Like, it's only been, like, it's been, this is, yeah, it's only been, like, about, like, 10 weeks. Almost 11, And I feel like I've grown so much, right? Maybe at some point I would have gone through this, like, phase sooner or later, but, like, I feel like I wouldn't have gone here as fast as I did if it wasn't for the Artist Way. And I would like to thank the Artist Way for that, for giving me the chance and the opportunity to evolve. And even though I feel like I haven't necessarily progressed much when it comes to my, like, the actual, like, act of creating, like, yes, I still create, yes, I still interact with the, like, I still draw, I still read, I still write, which is, like, the main thing that I usually do. I still listen to music, I still make playlists, I still do all these fun things, but, like, I know that once I become a lot more stable with my connections in my life and I learn to balance everything out and learn to love myself more, that it'll get me closer to the things that I want to achieve, right? Because if I have no, like, self-belief and I have zero self-respect for myself, how can I expect to, really put my ideas at the forefront and expect good results from it? How can I expect to be successful in my creative aspirations and dreams if I don't have that respect for myself, right? And I feel like that's everything that I've really been learning to and, like, to do and, like, navigating through over the course of this whole, like, book. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've said everything that I needed to say for now. I do appreciate the growth that I've gone through. Obviously, I'm not perfect. I'm still struggling. And that's okay. I'm changing and I'm letting change happen. I am recognizing my emotions, and I don't want to say I'm intellectualizing them, but I'm understanding them, right? And I'm letting myself feel these emotions. It's the act of really, verbalizing them to other people without, like, being afraid. Is like, that's what I'm currently struggling with. And I know at some point, sooner or later, soon, I will be able to do that. It's just, it's difficult to really... I'm still obviously very cautious of how I treat others. I don't want to be seen as, like, the bad guy in the situation, and a part of me kind of does feel that way, especially with how currently things are coming out, or, like, how things are going with this situation. It's obviously, I feel like my chance to really say anything has already, like, been, like, it's long overdue. and I know it's going to hurt more the more that I wait. Obviously, I'm not a perfect person. No one is. I've made the mistake of not verbalizing my emotions sooner. The truth will still come out. That's like, you know, I know for sure I'm going to say something at some point, but I really like this person and I really care about them. I don't think I'm self-sabotaging because, like, I just, you know, I just don't think I am. I really don't think I am. I strongly believe that I am not self-sabotaging. This is me genuinely recognizing a pattern, and that pattern is freaking me out because I don't want it to be the same thing as it was before. And if that's like a form of self-sabotaging, then shit, maybe I am self-sabotaging. But no, it's like this person is triggering a part of me that is bringing fear and uncertainty, and I don't want to deal with the same situation again, and they're not respecting me wanting that space. I've expressed it to them. They don't really, like, you know, I don't want to say that they come off guilt trippy, because that's like, you know, but they obviously get upset, and they make it very apparent that they're upset, and they're not just like, you know, yeah, it's just like, I don't know, like, I don't really appreciate it, but yeah, they kind of come off a little bit like guilt trippy, and I don't really like that either. But whatever. I need to like cut. I need to cut this like video. Like, I need to end it already. It's like it's already been like 32 minutes. I need to post this. It's like 12 a.m. I'm already like late. My bad. But we'll see how, you know, we'll just see how next week goes. If I'm still stuck in the same situation, fuck me, I guess, right? Mercury retrograde, am I right, guys? Or am I right? No, but yes, actually, but no. I'll see you guys next week. Peace and good night. Alright, I'm ending the video now. Bye bye.